afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching us from. Thank you very much for choosing the Citizens Chat Show here on Civic Space TV. My name is Judith Atim. I'm your host, and welcome to this very important discussion on the state of electoral democracy in the East African community, case of Uganda and Tanzania elections here on Civic Space TV. And we're streaming on YouTube, of course. As you all know, the EAC is built on a foundation of good governance, democracy, and the rule of law. However, recent electoral cycles in member states continue to challenge these aspirations, impacting not just domestic stability, but the very spirit of regional integration. Today, we aim to move beyond the surface to dissect the electoral experiences of Uganda and Tanzania, two key partner states, in order to understand the structural challenges and chart a credible path toward democratic consolidation in the community. Well, I am pleased to be joined by my distinguished panelists. From my immediate left, Honorable Henry Banyenzaki, seasoned politician and former Minister of State for Economic Monitoring. Good afternoon and welcome to the show, Honorable.
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon, viewers.
How have you been?
Good. Pushing on.
Well, we're happy to have you on the show. We also have Dr. Sarah Bireete, as always, our Executive Director, Center for Constitutional Governance. A warm welcome to the show, Dr. Sarah.
Thank you, Judith. I'm glad to be back, I think after 3 weeks. Yeah, I'm glad to be back on the show.
We missed you. And
The
your
other day
viewers
we
missed you too.
ate the chicken with the Ojiambo alone.
Well, thank you. We are happy to have you. We also have with us Mr. Charles Kazoba, who is the founder of the Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies. He offers us the critical regional and diplomatic perspective on these governance issues. Mr. Kazoba, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, Judith, and fellow panelists. I think it's the first time that I'm rubbing shoulders with the members here, although I've crossed paths with the former minister. I also covered Dr. Bireete in campaigns.
Yeah. Good. That
time I was with Oromogi. Yes, many years ago.
When she was a young girl.
Yes.
Okay, that's.
And
we
you
need
was
to
a
have a
young boy
conversation. You were a young boy too. Good to have you. And
She's
we'll
now a former youth.
Nice one. And we look forward to having you more on the show, Mr. Kazoba.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Dr. Robert Ojiambo, head of the History Department at Chambogu University, switching seats today. I don't have to sit with you today.
He's guarding.
I'm guarding for which.
You're most welcome, Dr. Ojiambo, and we're happy
Thank
to have you on the
Good
show.
afternoon.
Yes. So I want us to start. I think let's start with zoom in and focus on home issues first, and then we move further afield and look at Tanzania. Of course, it's a political season in the region, especially looking at Uganda and Tanzania. And this week, precisely this Wednesday, Tanzanians are voting for the next president. The incumbent, Samia Suluhu, is on the ballot, but we also know how repressed the environment for leading and vocal opposition figures in Tanzania is. In Uganda, presidential campaigns are underway, and campaigns for members of parliament candidates will kick off on the 10th of November. And I want us to start with the legal, practical, and political environment surrounding elections in our two case studies, that is Uganda and Tanzania. And I'll start with you, Honorable Banyenzaki. You are a seasoned politician. You also attempted to seek re-election for your constituency. And I just want to know, first of all, how it went, because you, amongst all of us, you are the insider. You're the person who has gone through it. So you have this perspective that we do not have. From the Ugandan situation, what is your reading or your observation of our political environment, the presidential campaigns, the nominations for members of parliament and special interest groups? And of course, the campaigns are still coming up, but we would like to hear what you think.
It's a tough
or
one.
what you've observed so far?
Tough one. Well, in our country here, in Uganda here, the electoral process is, first of all, it is not well defined. And what we know and what the society knows is just, it's like it becomes boom, electoral year begins. And you start hearing of special interest groups, youth, elderly, women. And by the time it is starting, like for example, this electoral season, people are not even aware. There's no sensitization, there's no civic education. So it comes like a bang. And what we have seen that people are they start going into these positions when they are not prepared at all. And because they are not prepared at all, people come to fill position for the sake of filling it. And you find even they are looking for people, for example, when it comes for special interest, people with disabilities, people are coming up when they are not even when they don't have any disability, but because they have to speak to fill that space, and because they have not been civil education, so it comes as a bank. So there it is like a stage managed affair. So I think that's the right word to say. So you begin at the lower levels, stage managed electoral process.
But Honorable, do you have examples where someone showed up, people showed up for,
so
say,
many.
PWD positions when they didn't really, they don't have any disabilities?
So many. I know so many in my area, in my constituency, in my district. I know so many where a person can just show up and just, probably he had an injury of the leg, injury of the arm, and say, I'm disabled. And he's elected to fill that space. He can even come and say, I have twisted eyes. Do they call
Squinted.
Squinted
eyes? Squinted eyes. And he said my disability is squinted eyes. So it is there.
That's quite a mockery
And
for
then
a person who is really
and
disabled.
that is at national level now. At the national level. And then it comes, by the time it comes to the top, the whole thing is mingled up. So the case here is no civic education, no sensitization. That is how we end into boom. And then you are having a suppressed civil society environment, who even know what do you call civil society education, who would have educated the people, and they are not participating for some reason or another. Their funding is blocked, they are squeezed, some are part of the they play the game. So when we social, political, and legally, that is the environment. Then when it comes, like, for example, the electoral process, what we are in now, the culmination of this election that we are in, national elections, start with primary elections in the specific parties. Then we have had the whole mess, what you could call a mess and confusion has been happening in the primaries of parties. There is no party that did primaries that is credible. Make it the governing party, make it the opposition parties, all of them. So first of all, they were militarized to the extent that you find even the opposition parties. I saw Democratic Party internal elections militarized. And then you wonder, where is this military coming from? The fights. So for NRM, you would think that this is a war zone. So now, even then it comes up. When it comes to this, the people you get, and then there is the elites have opted out of these kind of elections. And that's the situation you You're asking me, what about me? And the credible people, those with integrity, those who have a name to protect, are not participating because the whole environment is intoxicated. And the intoxication of this environment is probably even because there is no justice, you have nowhere to go. There are even no electorals to talk about. So the whole electoral environment is intoxicated, and so, and there would be moderators or regulators, self-regulators, the civil society organization, what do you call it, the observers, election observers are not participating. So it is a game which is like, it is a show, and you reach a point we are witnessing where, like for example, we are witnessing where candidates are being saying that they are being kidnapped, they are being obstructed, they don't reach the nomination centers. These are the things which you used to hear during in 1980s, during the days, my friend is not here, the days of UPC, where when UPC was in power, they would hijack DP candidates. So nowadays, we have members being hijacked and not accessing the nomination center. And by the time, and then it has time limit. So they have no recourse, they have nowhere to go. The legal system, the legal framework, even when you have been obstructed, it's gone. So it is like, what we are witnessing now. Even we witness the same thing when they're about to, you would even see when they were nominating presidential candidates. We have so many people who, the presidential candidates, who were defrauded because they said the electoral commission did not verify the signatures. And then you have like a party like NOP, which is now seen to be the main opposition party, leading opposition party, for it at the last hour, on the last day, putting announcement for people to show up from different districts to come and decide. So there is
The environment
the
is.
There is no confidence within the citizens that we are having a democratic process. And even us, some of us, even, we are losing the focus, So, and when you ask where are we going, here the common saying is Turagawa.
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Sarah, let me come to you. Honorable Banyenzaki says there's a loss of confidence among citizens. But how do you explain the large numbers of people that we see turning up for rallies for our presidential candidates? Do you agree that there is really, yes, we do have a crisis, but how do you explain that?
Well, quickly, and then I'll get back to the context. Ugandans, largely, especially those in the rural parts of Uganda, they attend rallies as part of entertainment. So if anybody tries to interpret an electoral process or the popularity of candidates based on numbers, there are chances that the outcome will prove you otherwise. People in the village have little entertainment. Somebody wakes up, go to the garden, maybe after lunch they can walk to the trading center, see what is happening, have conversation.
They even sit on the road, yes, just to see vehicles.
So they have a lot of time at their disposal. So if there is a candidate coming to an area, that's entertainment. It has nothing to do with whether you support them or not. If these are the people just coming to the trading center to see what is happening or look for some activity, an electoral campaign is an activity, and they will definitely go. But besides that, I agree with the Honorable Banyenzaki on the, the conditions for a credible, free and fair election to take place. You have to look at the legal framework. Our legal framework has fault lines, including the exorbitant nomination fees that young people could not afford. Yet 73% of our population is young people. So the 3 million nomination fees for parliament knocks out a big proportion of young people that would have wanted to participate at that level. Also, in the legal framework, you have the situation of campaign financing that we have failed to regulate to the extent that an MP in Western Uganda to campaign comfortably needs 2 billion. With other regions, it comes down, and you find that you need a minimum of 500 million to campaign. This is abnormal. And we cannot promote a trajectory of democracy based on the haves and have-nots, or those with the ability to steal more than others, taking advantage of an electoral exercise, and then we call it democracy. It can't be. So we need to find a solution.
It's democracy on sale.
Yeah, for this democracy on sale or public auction that we call a process of choosing leaders. It is wrong. We need to look at the role of security forces, which has slightly changed so far. The security have, and generally government, which have been using violence to disadvantage the opposition candidates, have now deployed a withdrawal method from the violence. So far in the campaign trail for the 1 month of presidential campaigns, it is seemingly peaceful, save for a few instances where police redirect the routes and venues of candidates. I think it's the only issue we are capturing in the hotspot issues in elections. The other hotspot issue is what emerged in Lira, the raid on Bob Wine's hotel, and the disturbance that happened overnight, including tear gas in hotel corridors, which is really unfortunate. Also, on security of elections, generally, we have to look at the issues of the stage managed and opposed candidates in the parliamentary nominations, where you had, for example, a roadblock in Ukedea, near the nomination center, stopping people from accessing a nomination center. I think police should explain why they mounted that roadblock. The other issue regarding, again, security is the way candidates or prospective aspirants were disqualified and struck off the register. In Ukedea, again, Electoral Commission has to explain. Then, of course, also in Kakumiro, Bireete East and the areas of Mitoma, you saw people saying they have been stopped from being nominated, and then at the end of the day, you hear people banking on cheap popularity capital of emerging unopposed. And these instances, like Honorable Banyenzaki said, they compare with the instances in 1980. I think about 24 UPC candidates again blocked the Democratic Party candidates in 1980 and emerged unopposed. And this was one of the events that took President Museveni to the bush. Only for him, after 40 years in power, to have his top cadres repeating the same instances of 1980 of artificial or stage managed emergence of unopposed candidates. I want to underscore the fact that a candidate can emerge unopposed. but without defranchising others, without praying that it can happen. Like in Churuhura, I think the woman MP did not get competitors, and nobody complained of having been stopped on the way to nomination, abducted, or whatever. So it can happen naturally, and it's democratic, it's okay. But where you have complainants, where you block people from nomination, like in Kakumiro, a candidate who ran against the prime minister in 2021 now was declared as uneducated in 2026. So how was she nominated in 2021 if she never went to school? So some of these instances are really ugly. Last, I want to look at the general aspect of freedom of expression, association, and movement, which is a key principle in a credible, free, and fair elections. Media, yesterday we saw the blocking of
NTV journalists.
NTV journalists in a national media group family from covering parliament. That's a violation of press freedom. Parliament belongs to the people. If the speaker thinks that whichever media outlet writes about her cannot then come to parliament, I think she's in a wrong place. There are many other issues she has done to show that she's not fit for office, and I think it's time really for the NRM party to take action and find a suitable person who is fit for the office of speaker in this country.
But what is it that the speaker must be an area?
What I'm saying is Parliament, NRM majority, maybe you're asking me why I think NRM will have majority in the next Parliament. Of course, the issues I've explained of money and other issues will produce more or less the same result. I need also to underscore that maybe if you asked me today to give you the result for presidential elections, I would also produce the same because of the prevailing conditions in the country. I could be wrong. I could be surprised on January 15th, but I predict really that nothing much will change because of the prevailing conditions in the country.
Well, thank you. Charles, I want you to also share your reflections. 1 month into the campaigns for presidential candidates, and recently we just had MP contestants nominated for the various positions. What is your impression so far of how the process is unfolding?
Well, me to be different or to sound a little different from fellow panelists, I don't think we are running an election. In my opinion, this activity resembles an election. What is happening is a selection, not an election. It is a choreographed activity where they will know that in this region we shall have this guy, and then they set the process in motion, which is very dangerous because the population is getting more angry. When you talk to the ordinary people, there's no excitement. Or where I stay in Entebbe, you may not know that there is an election unless there is a rally somewhere. And then you see borders flying here and there. You do not feel the discussion within the population to even claim that they want particular individuals or groups take charge of their destiny. So that is a big problem. And I've been arguing that this silence, this deafening silence, should actually scare the state more than if we had some violence here and there. People are quiet, but they are very angry. Why? Because they have gotten tired. And what could be the end result? We could see a Sudan here. We could see a Libya here. Anything can happen. And then the issue would be, is the state prepared for such an eventuality? I also don't think they are, because they don't think towards that direction. They think everything is normal. Why? Because everybody is up and down running, stealing, grabbing whatever little is left. But if we are to discuss this selection process, there are people who have come up to take positions, like Dr. Sarah said. The speaker, I think I was one of the first few people that attacked her, because I'd gotten quite a number of reports from journalists in parliament how she was behaving, and she's so dirty. I came out and spoke that she is going to be a huge problem for the entire country, not just for individuals, but for the entire country. Because her actions, that boldness, actually.
Boldness, I think, primitive power. Primitive exercise of power.
I mean, how, for heaven's sake, do you even fear these ladies to compete against you? You have all the resources. Why don't you do the Alupo way? Let them come. Sell yourself. You have the resources. You have the money. You have the human infrastructure. But even competing against that small person, you're so scared. Me, I thought probably it's arrogance, but I said, no, wait a bit. How has she been behaving? So it is not being smart, but her actions do not only affect her constituents, they affect the entire country. They actually increase the bitterness within the population. When Mugabe's government was about to collapse, the people within the inner circle were so blind that they couldn't see it. In fact, the way you see the rallies, that's how it happened, because Mugabe was also heading into an election. Until at one particular rally, their supporters booed the First Lady. That's when some individuals within the state machinery started realizing that there is a problem. You can imagine if President Museveni is campaigning and then NRM supporters stand up and begin booing him. But still, the others couldn't believe it. They thought they were in charge, until a few months later on, the thing just crumbles. Here, our fear should be, if it happens, if it crumbles, do we have people that can hold together a country? Because if there are no thinkers in that direction, then we are doomed. Because the truth of just the other day, me, I interact with the ordinary people so much. I go to the low class and we talk, we discuss these matters. So an individual was telling me, actually he asked me somewhere in an arcade downtown, hey, look, Charles, can you help me? I want you to draft for me a good concept, because there's an idea I've come up with, but I want to give it to Bobby Wine. So I asked him, Bobby Wine for what? He's not in the charge. He said, you guy, you should be blamed. The government has already collapsed. For us, we are looking ahead. Maybe you're not seeing what is happening. When I went back home, I kept asking myself the same thing. I said, how come people we tend to think are not so well educated? There are certain things they see, and for us, we can't see them. Could it be that there is a problem? Are we spending too much time thinking about ourselves than the country? Because the low class people are already moving. And my fear is that should something happen, they may not even give space to any members of the political class. Because
it will be another wave.
Yes, it will be another wave. And that is the most dangerous thing, that if the mass population takes charge of the process without the political elite from both opposition and ruling and then civil society, then there is a big problem, because everything crumbles just like that, and the elite will be running up and down, getting out of the country. So we should go back to the drawing board. Things might be normal, but the question is, are they actually normal?
It's sustainable.
There has to be Honorable Banyenzaki, I don't know who came up with the agenda for candidate Museveni. Me, if I were him, my biggest campaign tool agenda would have been that, guys, I'm now working towards handing over power. That you don't even have, he does not have to explain any program to the population. People are not listening to what he's saying. They only want to hear one thing. How are you getting out? And
who is coming in?
Who is coming in? How shall we take charge of our own process? So the moment you get that feeling, and you are speaking a different language, parish development, do you know what is happening on the ground? PDM. People are giving money to their families. Here, even in Kampala, leave alone the villages. So even if you say, I'm increasing it to 3 or 5 million, they know what is happening. The theft of public resources is too much. So the best campaign manifesto for President Museveni would have been, ladies and gentlemen, I am planning a transition government for this period. Help me do that successfully, and we move on. And the country will be prepared. When I saw him and the First Lady apologize to Ugandans, I thought, well, probably there's something coming up. But now, he's backtracking. So, is it an election? It can't be an election. With the anger within the population, it cannot be an election. It is merely placing people in offices. You know, King Louis
The fourth.
14.
The 14.
The 14th, yeah.
He used to run the same system. So there are 3 layers of power. So for the upper one, of course, it does not change, which is the inner circle. So you keep changing, especially this middle one. You keep the middle one on tenterhooks, so that should they disturb you, they can easily get out. So it is them that you keep subjecting to this kind of process. And they are always fearing how I could lose. If I lose office, then Museveni will not appoint me minister. That is what I'm seeing, but not the actual transformation of our country into a better nation. Because, and my biggest fear is that if our country crumbled today, it is not going alone. It is going with the entire region. Because President Museveni has also been shielding some of our neighbors. Should we crumble, we are going with everybody. And the entire region is going to be in turmoil. So, let the people that are in charge today stop living up there, let them come back down here and interact with the population to understand what is happening. Otherwise, we are doomed as a country.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Charles. Dr. Ojiambo, we are discussing the state of democracy, electoral democracy in the region. And again, your colleagues have elaborately given us their insights in what they see happening in our context. And I'd also like to give you the opportunity to share what you
Yeah,
think.
you see, Judith, I have been saying what he's saying right now because democracy demands certain things which we don't have. And because of pressures, we have been forced into choreographic democracy. I'll just take you historically. Before the structural adjustment programs of IMF and World Bank, all African countries were running a one-party state or no party. It was either one party or no party state. Look at Kenya, was under KANU. Everybody was competing in KANU. The opposition who were there were competing within KANU until maybe 2002 when they changed. In Tanzania, we had the CCM, Chama cha Mapinduzi, which started with the villageization of the whole thing in 1970s. And therefore, you had to come within CCM and stand. In Uganda, no elections. We are either under a military regime, because the last time we had elections was 1980, and an election which had problems. So from 1980 to 1996, there was no election. And from 1996 to 2005, we were under no party, something called movement, some funny thing, which brought us to these problems up to today. Of course, in Sudan, you would never hear about anything. Those Bashiris, they were just there. They would organize an election, but you would not know whether it is within a party or what, but the man would win 90%. Egypt, the same problem. West Africa, the same problem. Probably the only semblance of political parties was in a small area of West Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana. Yeah, the rest you couldn't. There were coups, and Liberia was in turmoil, Sierra Leone in turmoil, and so on and so forth. So with the force of IMF, we were forced into having a semblance of political parties. It was a conditionality, and we took it up. So they opened up. When they opened up, the dictators were very clever. They made sure that they had hijacked the state. So much so that the party in power became the state. And it started mauling people. Look at Kenya. Matiba and his other people were beaten almost to death. These Odingas were people who were in prison almost every time. In Tanzania, a man just talked against Nyerere, said that Nyerere has kept the economy of Tanzania in his pocket. And he was taken back to his village. And he was not supposed to leave that village until when he died. That man, I forget his name. They put him on a plane and it took him to his village, never to come back. So under Nyerere. So in Tanzania, you had to speak about Nyerere, how good he's running the country. Then you would be a nice person. You would get a position. You would be supported. So let's run very fast here, where we have now reached. Where we have reached, I remember at one time, the president was very uncomfortable with these things of multi-parties until he said he has been forced into multi-party because of the pressures within the movement. People are disturbing him. So he called it to the Jeko, let them go. But the pressure was from out, was not from here. So when they left them, he now saw how to run this whole thing. One of the major problems that the president used to have was the police, the Uganda police.
Yeah.
The Uganda police had remained professional. They had remained doing their things. And every time he would be quarreling, I remember the time of Kisembo and the time of Odomel, the president would be very uncomfortable. So slowly, the president has transformed the police. The police is now a cadre police. There is no difference between Uganda police and NRM. The other problem was the judiciary. That's why the president was very uncomfortable with any case going to court under those justices or those characters whom he had found here. I want to tell you now, the judicial system has also been is a cadre judicial system. Then the electoral commission, and this is where I want to start from. In my view, in this election, the electoral commission is not in charge. In fact, other than registering candidates, putting them on their papers and in their books, they don't have control over the electoral process. So who has taken over the electoral process in Uganda right now? The electoral process has been taken over by SFC, has been taken over by intelligence. Sometimes I don't know what is intelligence. They just say intelligence. So I don't know what is intelligence. Intelligence, and they are now people we call political commercial agents. There are so many political commercial agents. Their work is to choreograph, and as he was saying. So at the end of the day, the presidential elections, which are going on for almost 1 month now.
Yeah.
But look at them.
The campaigns, not elections.
I mean the campaigns. Look at them. They are like these groups are going to show themselves to the masses. Like they have come from abroad. They are going to the masses to show around. There is no serious debate in these elections. Let me start with the NRM ones. The president goes there to blame people who have not been doing their work very well. These are the characters. Number one, the medical officers. He says these are the people who have let him down. As if he has come, he's like Paul Biya. You know Paul Biya governs Cameroon from Geneva in a hospital in Geneva. So the president also is behaving like Paul Biya. He says, these people, I sent here a lot of medicine. They have not been dispatching it. Then the MPs, he says, you see, for you here, you elected an MP who is not monitoring the medicine, and the medicine is being taken to, he said himself, is being exported out of the country. Another group of people that he is haunting are the PDM dispatching officers, the sub-county chiefs, and those other people. So the president is not going there to tell people that, look what he is saying. This is what we plan for this country. So he's saying, don't worry. We are going to expand this hospital and turn it health center 4. As if there is no method of hospitals becoming health center 4 or health center 3. The president just says, I think now in Napak, we need a health center 4. I thought there should be a system. So at the end of the day, he's just blaming other people and showing that he's now going, the usual rhetoric, I am now going to show these people what he failed to do when he was 65 or 59 or 70. Now he's promising people that he's going to do it at 80 and even makes press-ups. Says now I am going to show them. So for me, I think this is not how a progressive democratic government should follow. For example, the president should be telling people in the presidential campaigns that I promised this. We have achieved this. This is how we are going to improve it now. Nobody is talking about the failed UPE system. Nobody is talking about it. Because for me, I don't believe that UPE is doing very well. UPE has failed. And to show you the failure of UPE, you need to look at the statistics of children of primary going schools who have abandoned UPE schools into private schools. If you didn't know, the percentage is only 27. Only 27 kids percent of children in Uganda are in UPE schools. And we are getting these statistics from registration at UNEB. We are not just cooking. Now, these are the ones who have registered. They are at UNEB. 27%. No, 37% for primary, 27% for senior 4. So we should be seeing this UPE, which is a very good project. What has gone wrong with it, and how are you going to correct it? The health sector system, which has died. They used to boast a few years ago of infrastructure that the roads are now tarmac. You just fly from Kabale to Busia or from Kitugum to Kisoro. Now the roads have collapsed. The roads which used to be very nice, except in the Bunyoro region where the roads are still newer. There is no road on Uganda that you can move from the beginning of the road and you don't find one part dead. I have been seeing this. So we need to see that. The president is now saying, we can't eat roads. We need money in the pocket. So the emphasis is to give people money. Which economics they have been told that there is no economy in the world that has developed on gifts. Economies develop on macroeconomic stability, which improves the micro. The micro is just an engine which is improved. So they are dealing with the micro of the spending and what have you of individuals. That cannot help. Now, when you look at the other parties, because for me, I don't want normally to call them opposition. The other parties which are competing with NRM, they don't have what it takes to organize a full election. Elections are expensive. By the way, for us in Uganda here, we know that election is only expensive because of the money you bribe people. But the way you organize, to organize people and speak to them, like you see where democracies are old, have town halls, have these meetings where people meet and they are not squeezed, they are not fearing. You have different categories of people. You have the educationists, you have the civil servants, you have this group. Ours is just you move. Whether goats or what have come, you speak to those ones. Even the cows, I have seen where a person is with his cows, he sees a rally, he joins with his cows. The cows are there grazing, he's also there. So you cannot have that type of election in the country. So for me, I feel, look at the other 7 candidates. They are really struggling. If you have been observing, every day they have to break off and say, now this place we are not going.
Yeah.
The other day we are not coming. Why? Because they don't have resources. And we don't have any proper system that can enable those people to campaign. For example, these iPod, these stories I've been hearing, their duty this time would have been to facilitate every candidate because you want good governance. But they are saying it is only those ones who are willing to speak well with the president and the other people who are getting money. So you see a very big problem. Like the only one which is trying is NUP with a lot of difficulty. And NUP is trying because of the people coming on their own. There is a man, by the way, who has been following NUP. I need to meet that man. He rides a bicycle. And wherever NUP has been, he's there with the bicycle. He's a bicycle. He's from Hoima. But he has just started following. So when you see those rallies of NUP, it is just well-wishers who are feeling good with their president. But the other problem, now when the rally, half of it is intelligence. Intelligence is moving everywhere, threatening people and saying this and doing that. And for me, where I get shocked is that something very huge happens and you don't see any statement from the Electoral Commission. I'll give two examples. There was supposed to be a rally for National Unity Platform in Kakumiro, in a football pitch. The candidate arrives at the place, he finds helicopter planes have landed in the pitch, and the police is not allowing anybody to go there. And these things are on, they are running. And I saw confusion. I was imagining if somebody runs mad here and stones these policemen or starts up a fight, we are going to see dead bodies. So Sarah was saying that the police has not been violent. The police has been very violent, but the people are controlling themselves. Because if it was the other BCJ group, which was rammed into in Kubiri here in 2000, I think 2001, they would have gone there and you would have seen casualty. But these people controlled themselves and went away. The other one was the other day on Monday in Lira. The candidate was stopped from entering the town. There were vehicles, these members had been lined on the road. And now what happened? They decided to have a rally on the main road. They covered the whole road and everything, so vehicles could not enter Lira town for a long time. And for me, I don't see any statement from the Electoral Commission. I find that very funny.
Thank you.
So for me, I really feel that, yes, the problem in Africa and in Uganda, people don't want elections, but they pretend to have some, he called these elections, so that they can legitimize themselves. But when you look at our people, our leaders don't like elections. If you asked these members of parliament that there is some security problem, should we suspend this election? The ayes say aye and the nays say nay. It will be aye in unison, because people don't like election. People don't want to be challenged. They have a king, a chief mentality.
Well, thank you. I'm being told that we have a few minutes before we take a break. Yeah, but before we go into the break, one thing that has come out very clearly from this round of discussion is that the Electoral Commission is not in charge, or does not seem to be in charge of this process, from everything I've heard from what I've heard from all of you people. And that in itself also leads to the lack of public confidence or public trust that we have. Again, you've given lots of examples of how this lack of trust is manifesting, either in people holding back, or also having this heavy militarization, the military deployment that you've given, the example in Lira, and how this also creates an environment of fear. But for the electoral management body to actually reclaim its space as an institution that can deliver a credible election, how do you think they should actually approach this trust deficit that you all talk about? Sarah, yeah, then I'll come to you, Honorable.
Yeah, you see, the trust of Electoral Commission has been found wanting for a long time. In 2014, the civil society actors, together with the political parties, set out to consult the country on credible, free and fair elections and what we need to do. And towards 2016 elections, there was a compact of free and fair elections with a series of recommendations that need to be done in the Constitution to increase the independence and credibility of the Electoral Commission, but also in the electoral laws. None of them were adopted Usually people say that we only changed the name to Independent Electoral Commission, but even that did not happen. The name remains Electoral Commission. It did not change. So the manner in which Electoral Commission officials are chosen, commissioners handpicked and appointed by the president with a rubber stamp parliament, no participation of the other parties. I think it's important for the young people to know that the first commission had representatives of opposition parties, even when opposition parties were not active, like Robert Shitariko. It was not a one-party show. This one-party show of President Museveni, this is President Museveni's commission. It is not a commission of Ugandans. If he decides, and you have seen how he has been firing senior officials towards elections. You are a candidate, but you are firing referees in the game. That alone shows you that really this is his thing. So as Ugandans, we need to change the electoral commission and have a body that is suitable for a multi-party dispensation, where electoral commissioners represent the political shades in the country. 2, they are appointed and scrutinized through a public process, public interviews, public vetting, so that they serve the people and not a person that handpicks them. The second issue that needs to happen, I think, is surrounding tenure. Now we say the 7, I don't know why it was made 7 when our elections are 5. I think for me, if we are to retain a 7-year tenure, then it should be non-renewable. So that you come in 2 years before, conduct an election and go. And then another set of Ugandans will come in. But now if you look at, for example, this appointment of the current commission, they will also conduct the 2031 election because of those 7-year thing. And that is really disastrous.
And they were appointed towards this election.
Yes. So they will be there in 2031, the current people. If you look at the technical teams at the Electoral Commission, some of them are missing. Several directorates are empty at the Electoral Commission. And the Electoral Commission is one of the state organs that returns money meant for salaries. Because the senior management team of the Electoral Commission is like at 60%. The directorates are empty. Several key positions are empty, even as they conduct the elections. When you look at their conduct, now away from beyond the appointment, let me use the example of the relationships with civil society. You will find the Electoral Commission people discussing, for example, why is Sarah calling out to the president and the CDF, who is his son, on UBC, calling them out for human rights violations. Therefore, Sarah is opposition. She shouldn't come to Electoral Commission. These are the current people at the Electoral Commission. So when they see our names, oh my God, do you see what Sarah says, for example, on Civic Space TV? That one is opposition. They are busy profiling activists because of the work we do. The work we are supposed to do. Because if I am a constitutional watchdog, I pay no allegiance to anybody. I must discuss the practice of leaders across board. And for them, they have a problem with that because they are NRM cadres in that commission. They are not serving Uganda. They are serving NRM. When we applied to conduct vote education, that's how they were looking at our applications. Honorable did mention the absence of vote education. They were accrediting people they think are pro-NRM and those they think are not pro-NRM. For us, we have never got the feedback.
In fact, Sarah, to help you,
Would they have never
Sarah, to
replied
help you,
us?
they were to do adverts for their activities. They restricted only to New Vision. Other newspapers and the TVs and what were left out. And you can imagine such a thing. Of course, they would say that they were following the presidential directive, but the presidential directive was removed. So there is no way you can say, this paper, this one is opposition. How can a paper be opposition?
But they are using our taxes. So if any of the people in public service wants to conduct themselves like that, let them put up a note that people who don't support Museveni and NRM will no longer pay tax. Then you can get taxes from NRM members and then use it for the way, any way you want that is for NRM. But so long as you are collecting taxes to everybody, you must serve them because you are using their money. But beyond that, let's look at the bidding process for the electoral work they are doing. Do we know the tendering process for people going to print ballots? I've not seen any adverts. Do we know the tendering process for people that are bringing the biometrics for finger print identification? I've not seen any tendering process. The little rumor we had is that somebody was directing them on who to procure with the fake companies that have no credibility. So does that give confidence to Ugandans? No.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm told it's time for us to take a break. We will return and I'll still get your insights on how to restore public trust in the Electoral Commission. And then we will also take a look at the situation in Tanzania. This is the Citizens Chat Show. Just stay with us.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break, and thank you for still being with us here on the Citizens Chat Show as we continue with our discussion on the state of electoral democracy in the East African community. So before we went to the break, I had given you the question, how to restore public trust in the Electoral Commission if the assumption of thinking that the EC is no longer or has never been in charge of our electoral processes. Let me hear from you, Honorable Banyenzaki, and then I move to Charles and Dr. Ojiambo.
Well, first of all, the citizens have lost you hear them talking, citizens have lost, those who understand, the elite have lost trust in the Independent Electoral Commission of Uganda. And the reason is because that if you hear even the voices coming here is that these are cadres appointed to those positions. And these are cadres of NRM. And they have reasons to believe so. And looking at it and the debate that has been going on, they are justified to believe so. So the way forward, I think, should be, I think Sarah is the one who talked about it. Maybe if we took over this iPod that is coming as a platform of all the parties presented in Parliament to have a platform, maybe we should say that if the Electoral Commission is to be appointed by the IPOD members as an institution, and then if they are to be appointed by the IPOD institution, then you have layers that would sieve those who are coming up, and including the judiciary and the public and then the parliament at large. But the appointment at that level, initiation level, is very, very important. Because when you say that, let's say if you bring and say parties should participate, we have parties which are briefcase parties. We have parties which have been molded by some different interest players, and they are not even worth to be called parties. So, but at least if you say IPOD, then you say these are the parties that have presentation in parliament. If that happens, yes, maybe we shall have some trust. But if it continues to be the way it is, and you say that the president appoints these members in the electoral commission single-handedly, and they are vetted by the caucus, by the parliament, which is overwhelmingly occupied by the NRM members, people will lose the trust in this
The process.
in the process. And as people lose the trust in the process, what Kazoba was saying, it will happen. When people lose trust in the institution, and what has happened now, people have lost trust. Many people have lost trust in the institutions, government institutions, those which are, even those which we call independent institutions, they are not independent, and they have lost trust in it. And Doctor was talking about, if the people lose trust in the judiciary, in the legal system, in the judiciary system, they lose trust in the parliament as an institution. They lose trust in the executive as an institution. So what next? We were here seeing in our break, I think this is breaking news. We have seen the army behind the protesters in Tanzania. And this is how the government collapsed in Egypt, when the army protested with the protesters. And it has happened elsewhere, even again, it is, I think, the same thing in Zimbabwe. The moment the side of the protesters are protesting, and they are protected by the army, and the government is also protected by the army, you know that that government has fallen. So if we are going to lose, if our citizens are going to lose trust in the entirety of the government institutions and all the arms of the institutions, including the police, including the army that we're talking about, and then that's where we shall be heading. That's where we shall be heading. So now, we need to restore these institutions very urgently. There's an urgent call for these institutions to be restored to normality. An urgent call to restore the Electoral Commission to be independent. An urgent call for the army to be impartial. Police to be impartial. Judiciary to be impartial. The civil servant to deliver services to the people indiscriminately. And when we're talking about impartiality, there shouldn't be discrimination, that this is an NRM, this is not this is opposition. So we are at a crossroad. I should say, we are at a crossroad.
Thank you. Charles, let me come to you, still on the same questions. What has to be done to restore public trust in the independence and neutrality of the Electoral Commission? What is it?
You see, it's like if you own a very expensive, let's say, very expensive Benz, and then somebody is asking you, what should we do to help you drive downtown? Always you can, so that you can go for your shopping somewhere in Ham's Arcade there. And then somebody will propose that probably remove the hawkers and borders. That doesn't solve anything. If you want to tackle our governance issue, it is total overhaul. It can't be piecemeal. Because there's no way you're going to make one institution functional in a dysfunctional system. It is impossible. The entire thing needs overhaul. And I've always been appealing to all actors and all Ugandans not focus so much on President Museveni. Instead, they should use this time to come together and design a system that can work for them post-Museveni. What exactly do they need? Dr. Sarah talked of that compact that was arrived at. Now you can pick that, fit it into your other proposals. What Uganda do you want after Museveni? Don't focus so much on Museveni, because the man may not have so many years as we talk. But what happens? What if he's off stage? Do we begin scratching around for good ideas on what to do and who is going to do it? So we need to overhaul the entire system, shift it from where it is and put it aside, then we develop a new thing. Because if we don't do it, and we think that if we probably let me give you an example. Electoral Commission cannot operate independent of intelligence services. Yes? Now you have intelligence services that survive on intrigue, on rumor mongering without facts, propaganda. And these are the people that are going to identify those that are appointed into those offices, because you have to be profiled. Now, who is getting the information to the president, for instance, for these appointments? It is the intelligence services. How much do you trust the intelligence services? People who are there to lie, to live, to earn, to manufacture false intelligence, so that they get a source of money. Now, how do you then say that we are going to patch up things so that electoral commission can be better, and you leave other institutions which are also already rotten? Parliament, do we really have a parliament today? I don't know. But what is happening there, how business is conducted there, you cannot expect much. There's a time I remember, there are appointments, I think, made. The president appointed some people to electoral commission. And then somebody in the parliament sneaks in.
Another name?
Yes.
Yes.
This is parliament. It actually, by that action itself, it is treason. But such things are happening in this country. Now,
Or the name sneaked in from parliament?
From parliament.
Or the name sneaked in?
I think the name came from Anita
State
Mong's.
House.
Yes, it is. It should, if I remember, if I try to recall
I followed that thing. It is true.
Anita Mong, yes. That is treason by its nature.
I want you to say it again. What exactly happened?
The president appointed people to electoral commission. And these things have been happening. So when the president signs and they learn that appointments have been made, other people change and send in their own.
Do they forge their signature? The signature of the
They don't
president?
forge. You'd never go there.
In fact, that name was later withdrawn.
The name that was
Repressed.
That was
illegal.
put
Did
in.
the
That was
president
the
sign
name that
a
was
new
smuggled
letter?
in.
They had to sign a new thing.
By who? President, or it was a forgery?
The one which reached the plenary at the parliament was a forgery.
So Parliament approved the forgery.
They replaced. In fact, they approved. They
the-
approved in parts, if you remember.
So
They
the
approved in
name
parts.
the name that was smuggled was later withdrawn.
Yes.
Okay.
Was later withdrawn, and they brought another one. So they approved this electoral commission in parts. They are all celebrated for some time, and say your name now has been withdrawn.
Just carry on.
I think government has collapsed. They're going by that trend.
That's how we
if such state of affairs persist, then you cannot say that we can clean up the electoral commission to serve the interests of Ugandans, minus you tackling the other institutions on which electoral commission also depends. So, who is making the budget? Who is making the laws for electoral commission? Who is providing information security? All these people have, all these institutions have to be dealt with. So that's why I arrive at my medicine that the only solution is to overhaul
The entire
the
system.
entire system. And to overhaul the entire system, that in our language is called a revolution. I was speaking of such a thing somewhere, and people's minds are, a revolution has to be violent. No, at times a revolution does not have to be violent. But the change of the system in itself
It's a revolution.
is a revolution. So that's what Uganda requires. But for that to happen, now you need serious thinkers to begin to embark on the process of designing a system that can help Ugandans and Uganda move forward. You don't have to wait for President Museveni to give you money and space to do it. Because for him, he's in the evening of his time. He has done his part. Tomorrow he won't be with you. But what about you who still have 30, 40 years ahead? So it is up to us to volunteer and do the needful. Because if we keep seated, then we shall end up like Burundi, Rwanda, DRC, Sudan. And that is a big fear. We have about 2 million refugees here. Is it possible that you can run and seek a refugee status in DRC if things went bad here? Yet they know that you are the cause of their problems. Can you run to South Sudan? Can you run to Rwanda? Even in Kenya, you might be chased. You will be
saying
brought.
we have nowhere to run.
Maybe if
No,
Tanzania.
Kenya has been closing. They don't want refugee camps.
Do you have
there.
options
They
of
have
where
closed.
people can run? Sarah, where would be safe in the region? Which country would be safe for
No, I
refuge?
think we'll have to resolve our issues here.
So
Just die for
we must, and to resolve our issues, sort ourselves out, we must do it as early as possible. There is a bad habit that most of our people are so much money-minded. Even if you invited people to a meeting, they first want money.
Yeah.
They don't look at a scenario that I'm talking about. Because you might have the money, and tomorrow it will not help you. The earlier we realize that things are moving off track, the better for everybody. Like I've told you, the wananchi, for them, they're already convinced. I was speaking to an OG of mine. She is contesting for some constituency, I think in Fort Potro somewhere. I asked her, oh, you were in General Monto's party, why cross to NOP? And she gave me a brief analysis. She said, a few years ago, our people were reaping so much from tea. Tea collapsed, government just kept quiet and ignored them. And these are young people. So she told me most of these young people are spending much of their time in trading centers, listening to radio, talking to each other. And the only discussion they now listen to is about Bobi Wine. So she said the chances of her succeeding under Muntu were very slim. She would rather go under Bobi Wine. So we have a huge chunk of the population that has become unemployed under tea. All these cash crops have been obliterated. Where Honorable Banyenzaki comes from, we used to hear of tobacco. It is not there.
Irish potatoes, that was Irish potatoes.
But even now,
They are not there.
you're soon importing from Rwanda.
No, we are
Tell me.
getting from Tanzania and
Yeah.
to
Irish
Kenya.
potato.
Yes.
Yes.
What we buy on the markets,
Everything.
actually, including the tomatoes and the onions, are actually
Yeah.
from Kenya.
Carrots, Kenya,
Yeah.
everything.
So the Wananchi
Sorghum, Tanzania.
have become unemployed and they are feeling the pinch. They try to look around for somebody to lead and they don't see the person. They see the groups that would have led them quarreling with each other, and it's mostly about money and the positions. Don't lead me. No, me, I want to lead you. The moment they wake up and say, let's handle this situation ourselves, then that's when you realize trouble.
Thank you, Charles. Dr. Ojiambo. Restoring public trust.
I really want to agree with him, but for me, I would want to improve it into mid-term, short-term, and long-term. What is proposing for us, the way I see the project of government or the Museveni project can only help you in long-term. But we need a short-term solution, because I've always argued that whether these elections are not good, but they lubricate friction somehow. At least sometimes people, by luck, they get one of them, whom they liked, one of the LC5, and it lubricates the friction, which would cause a lot of problems. Because as he has said, you do not want commotion in Africa now, because it means that very many people are going to die. One time I was listening to Mazuri, and he said he woke up in the morning and he saw Ken dead. And he was very shocked. He said, Ken dead. So the quickest thing, because he's a Kenyan, he thought Kenyatta was dead. But when he picked the paper, he found out that it was J.F. Kennedy. And he said that he was shocked but relieved. He was relieved that it was not Kenyatta. Because if it was Kenyatta, he knew that very many people were going to die and so many things happening. But that relief is what I am talking about. So we need an electoral commission which works like a football or any game that you know referee. For your information, Sarah, these referees come from the same clubs. But they have an etiquette that if I am chosen to be a referee, I must operate on these rules. So whether it is my player whom I coach every day, but he has held the ball in the 16-yard box, and the ball, the hand is in an unnatural position, it is an handball, and it is a penalty. Full stop. So you see this electoral commission, I used to argue with the people. People you say, when you bring a judge, at least a judge has a reason, he can reason out things and see. At that time, we had Kasuja. I don't know his qualifications. We had Chigundu, who was an engineer. And earlier, we had I think, the other one was what?
Chigundu, Kasis, Kasuja, Kabwai.
Kabwai.
Yeah.
This is the one I'm wondering his profession.
I think I was an accountant.
So by good luck, we got a judge, and not just a judge, but of the Constitutional Court, the second layer of the most top court in Uganda. When I walk around the road there, he tends to be the worst. He tends to be the worst because at least Azizi Kasuja would quarrel a little bit and write statement and scare. I remember when there was a scuffle in Rukungiri, he ordered and said that if this continues, I am going to suspend this election. And they never beat up a candidate again in that election when they had beaten Semo Gerere. Engineer Chigundu would at least come and explain things. But this one, things happen and there is no explanation. And yet he's a person who understands the law. He is implementing the law that he knows. So I think the first thing is to borrow those two. We need an independent group of people. And the process that brings in this person should be independent as well. The way you see now, even these judges, why it has become very funny, that even the Judicial Service Commission proposes somebody and the president refuses. He says, that one I don't like him. I remember they took there some two names and he said he didn't like them. And they went and changed the names and gave him the ones he wanted. For me, I think professionals should not behave like that. That's when I would cease to be a member of that Judicial Service Commission and I go home, because a member of the Judicial Service Commission is not a beggar. First of all, he must have been a judge. Oh, he must have been a senior legal person. So he's not a beggar. So the Electoral Commission, I think, sir, we need to borrow from what was done in internal affairs. And I use this example so much. I hope they don't become complacent.
Mm-hmm.
The driving,
I want us to rush to go to Tanzania.
Permit issuing, I don't know whether it is a department or what. It's one department that has given us hope that things can change in the sea of incompetency. Because you go there, it has reduced corruption. You go there 2 hours, you have your driving permit. So long as you feel
that is not a government department.
It is.
No. It's a private.
It is government under internal affairs.
No,
in fact, the private one was dangerous.
No, it's not government. It is a.
Okay. If possible, let's get a contract.
And they are doing.
But the other thing which I wanted to talk about.
And they are they are sharing the revenue. So they are motivated by the money they
But get. The first one in Ojiambo was too bad. It was private throughout, but it was very bad. It was terrible. So what I am saying, in Electoral Commission, where they have failed the most is the control of police. Probably, we have a directorate of police in charge of elections. And that director should be answerable to the chairman Electoral Commission. Like these policemen who are put in IGG and these other places. Because the chairman Electoral Commission, every time they complain about police, is saying, but I'm not the police commander. Police is brought here only to do their service. I will give another trouble has been, Electoral Commission, by the way, has 3 issues. The other issue is the declaration of votes, the winner. That's where we have had all problems in Kayunga, in all these places. If they worked on that one properly.
Thank you, Doctor. You're referring to much.
Yes.
Buying the idea of Kazoba overhaul the entire system.
But I don't see that happening now.
Dictators,
by the way,
it takes time.
Kazoba is a very hopeful person.
It will happen.
Dictators are terrible people.
It will happen.
You can imagine in Cameroon, they have a president. In fact, I looked at Cameroon and I said, this is the where all dictators should go and learn. The president is 93, ministers.
80.
Ministers average is 82.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Ojiambo. I want us to now cross over to Tanzania. And we've seen videos and images coming in from Tanzania on the day of election, that is 29th of October. The incumbent, Samia Suluhu, of course, is on the ballot in an election that a lot of observers across the world think is really below par, for want of a better word, because we've seen events that have been transpiring in the run-up to the elections for several months now, how the opposition politicians and parties have actually been so suppressed. After 64 years of leading Tanzania, is Chama cha Mapinduzi falling, or has it fallen? Will the Gen Z of Tanzania bring CCM to its knees? I'll start with you, Sarah.
Yeah, I think generally that's where Dr. Ojiambo had started. What is the foundation for democracy in these countries? And then what is the foundation for an election as a process? So when you look at Tanzania's seeming stability, over the 50 years, it has been a one-party state. When Tanzania, got independence under Mwalimu Nyerere, it was a one-party state for about 20 years. Then the push for return to multipartyism, where Mwalimu Nyerere stepped down before, they changed one article in the constitution, which was providing for a one-party state, to say Tanzania has now gone under multipartyism without overhauling the other provisions of a one-party state. So they are in a situation where you have, like the way we've described the Electoral Commission, all leaders of government are appointed by the party. You have CCM cadres everywhere, including international organizations, whether it's a UN job, whether it's just CCM cadres.
Up to the university.
Even in universities.
They're called?
TIS, Tanzania Intelligence Service.
Yes, and they're open about it. So you are not a CCM cadre. You have no participation, almost you're on periphery of your governance. So they did not amend the constitution to provide for a multi-party dispensation. So when you look at these immediate elections, of course the situation has been deteriorating over time. Every other leader, it gets worse. When President Magufuli, who is now late, came in and then suppressed the freedoms of independence, abuse of human rights, and the emergence of abductions. When he passed on, Madame Samia just continued. After all, she was her deputy. The first months, she pretended as if she was going to create a departure, meeting opposition, meeting MPs, repealing the 13 laws. There was a 13 omnibus amendment that had closed civic space in Tanzania. So she repealed those laws, but without enough reforms. For example, the case of media. The media that had accumulated fines under this omnibus law that was repealed, the fines were never removed. So most of Tanzania's media, as much as they are operational, they owe money to government in fines. So that closes their mouth and the hands, those which are print
Critical.
media. They cannot print any article critical of the regime, because the regime will revoke the pending fines that are impossible to pay because they are too much and immediately close. So when you look at their laws on social media, their cyber laws are the worst. If I put up a post, like now I'm posting about the protests in Tanzania, somebody comes and gives a comment that is abusing the president of Tanzania, I'm the one responsible, because if it wasn't for my post, this comment wouldn't have emerged. That has caused even the media space, that the people are criminalized for things they don't author. Because if you were criminalizing me for my own post, I would take responsibility. But a comment on my post, I am responsible for the public that is going to comment below my post, or I will be in jail. How would you make such laws? So that's how the space in Tanzania is constrained. At the beginning of this election, when Tundu Lissu won to be the chairman and flag bearer of
Chadema.
Chadema, he demanded for reforms before elections, because among the reforms was the constitutional review or the slogan of Katiba Mpya that should overhaul the Tanzanian constitution to create a level playing field for multi-party dispensation. Among the issues that were to be reviewed in the Tanzanian constitution is the issue of challenging a presidential election, which keeps Tanzania out of the African Charter for Democracy, Elections and Governance, ACDEG, because ACDEG provides that those who are not satisfied with the electoral outcomes at presidential level should challenge them in court. But the Tanzanian constitution does not provide for that. Once there is an announcement, there is no challenge you can make.
But we're
End of the
introducing it
story.
here.
It won't work. So we fought it. I mean, some of these things, you are not going to smuggle them here. They won't work. So when you come,
But they will be passed.
they won't work. Passing a law is different.
Okay.
A law must be in the hearts of the people. They won't work. So when you look at the way Tundu Lissu was treated because of demanding for reforms, he's charged with treason. Tundu Lissu's case, which he won last week, is the only case where an individual is charged with treason. Usually it's a group of people, because it's not possible for an individual to plot to overthrow a government alone. But Tundu Lissu alone was charged with treason. He defended himself as a lawyer and he defeated the government. He was set to walk out of prison today, and then the protests started also on voting day, and the protests are still ongoing. They are countrywide. Police, the latest news indicate that police is now, spreading tear gas in the protesters, but the army has restrained itself and is still peaceful.
Yes, Honorable Banyenzaki. With this background that Sarah has just shared, what are your thoughts about the events that are unfolding in the democratic space of Tanzania?
Now what is unfolding is that whoever imagined that there would be a demonstration against the administration of Chama cha Mapinduzi, and then the army protects the protesters.
And on voting day, especially.
And on the voting day. So nobody ever imagined that. And in Uganda here we say kawedemu. Chitegeza, game over. So you can see now, wait for what's going to happen in Tanzania, because what is happening in Tanzania now is a repeat of what happened in Egypt. When the army came on the side of the demonstrators, the president, who had won by 98%, was toppled by the protesters, who they said those are the ones who elected him. So now, in Tanzania, nobody ever expected it. And that is why when you listen to what Kazoba was saying, and what sometimes some of us say, and we say, please, we are saying this, these are our predictions, but we are not the prophets of doom. So it is bound to happen elsewhere. It is bound to happen in Uganda. You are going to see it one day. Like you see, if people, sometimes I say, the next war is not going to be fought in the bush, it will be fought on the streets of Kampala and the other cities and towns. And when you see the scenario, and when the army comes protect the protesters, game over. So this is the stage which is being set now, is that kind of stage. In Kenya, it happened some few months back, some few weeks back, it almost happened. The Gen Z almost toppled the government. It was just stopped at the brink, at the thread widths in Tanzania here.
In Kenya.
It has happened but Recently, it happened in Madagascar. It happened in which other West African country?
Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso. Not Burkina Faso. There's another country.
Even Burkina Faso, there is.
Even
there
Burkina
was,
Faso,
yes.
it was the same scenario. And then it happened in Nepal.
Nepal. Yeah.
Nepal. So you can see even now, people are waiting for that moment. And when we appeal here that we don't want to see that happen, it's not because we wish these things to happen, but they will happen if people don't do something right. This kind of, I think those who deceive themselves, like what we have been discussing here, and you have actually what has happened in what they were discussing. If you have the speaker, you have the deputy speaker, if you have the prime minister, engineering that kind of scenario of an opposed candidature, using the instruments, using the police, using the military. That what is happening. It is the trend they are setting is so dangerous that the state needs to wake up and fight that kind of state. President Museveni needs to wake up, NRM party needs to wake up, because if Museveni has subjected himself to the competition, you can see how he's running around, you can see now how he is, how weathered he is, because he's explaining himself to the people for a re-election. Whatever you say, whatever you want to say, but at least he has subjected himself to the election. What about these cadres? Why would they? And that is some of the reason that these are the things that are repairing. There would be credible candidates, the people who have the values, who have the morals to come on the stage. So we need to restrain this kind of stuff, because if it is not restrained, it will definitely happen. The revolution of the people will definitely happen.
Thank you. Charles, let me come to you. So we now see the military taking sides with young Tanzanian citizens who are saying they're actually tired of CCM and its rule. What message does this send, not just for Tanzania, but for the region? And if, say, CCM crumbles, what kind of ripple effect will it have in the EAC?
First of all, President Samia became president by accident. She didn't envisage a situation that she would ever be president, but I think God propelled her. If you trace her record, where she started, it was all through her life by accident. It's not that she's somebody that was groomed for big things. So even her own party did not want her when Magufuli died. And she started fighting so much. I think at some point she forced either the Speaker of Parliament to resign. So she has been struggling to capture power within the party. And in the process, she hurt so many influential figures within the system itself. Remember, she had promised, she had extended an olive branch to the opposition. And in Tanzania, everybody was happy. Then all of a sudden, she changes. Then she goes for the media. She attacks the media. She begins attacking the women, her voice, her platform. So my opinion is that she was not groomed to take charge of Tanzania's leadership. And that is the very reason she had been appointed vice president. The way here it is done, that you bring somebody
To
who
learn.
cannot actually undermine your power.
The puppet.
Yeah. So that's, but by accident she. Now, people even didn't think that she would succeed for 3 years because of undermining her own party constituency, and then the citizens, the activists, the opposition people. The situation has gradually been worsening. But besides that, we should look at also the bigger picture. These political parties that have been around for a very long time do not resonate with the interests of the Gen Zs. They are too ideological. The young people of today don't associate with ideologies. Those Cold War ideologies.
So generations apart.
Yes, they don't, those ideologies don't put bread on the table. Actually, that is one also of the big problems we have in this country. That you have a president who is so much affected by the Cold War ideologies, left, right, do I go east, do I go west? When things are not working out somewhere, he says, no, I think Russia and China will be my allies. The young people want jobs. They want to live a good life, marry, drive, own property. That's the only thing they want to listen to. That is why when you begin talking ideology, sijui what, they will not listen to you. They want to listen to economic empowerment, period. The rest is none of their business. Now, when you have leaders and political groups that are stuck in that thinking, then you lose it. You must understand that the young people of today, 15 to 30, don't even understand the fights between the East and the West. If I can go to check.
If I may add in, the joke by young Cameroonians is that Paul Biya is older than the atomic bomb.
Who's atomic bomb?
Of 1945.
So you're going to have issues.
Who's atomic bomb?
Now, it means since we have the young people as the majority, about 80%, I think they could even be 90%. Because when I'm seated in a taxi, they call me Mzee. Now I ask myself, am I really Mzee? But they already see you as Mzee. So which means there are so many, and they are brought together by
Economic hardships.
Yes, economic hardships. You have to find a solution to their incomes. Are they earning?
Jobs.
Are they living well? Can they go to hospital and be treated? You ask yourself today, why is it that everybody that is not earning well has resorted to herbal medicine? It's because they don't have the capacity. And by the time they realize that their ailments have not been treated by herbal, it is too late.
It is too
They are
late.
going to die. Now, these, the NRM, NC, CCM, they either rebrand or they collapse. And new ones emerge. Which are not so much based on the so-called ideology, what philosophy. Those things don't work in today's world because people are on the computer. we are moving to a situation where we are going to have a global citizen. That somebody can work in China, live in Canada, and his money is in Uganda. So if that is the situation and you are talking of ideology, what ideology are you following? Am I a liberalist? It is about money. But
The
unfortunately,
economy.
yes, unfortunately, our big political groups are still stuck there, and the thinking is not changing. You ask, if you interacted with the number of NRM members, even in the parliament, whether they don't even know what NRM stands, what ideology. You think they
10-point
care?
program.
Nobody can even tell you the first point.
And yet you have leaders in charge who don't want to change their mindset. But instead they are blaming the other people that it is them who are not changing mindset. Yet it is these leaders who are stuck somewhere. Eh? So in Tanzania, if if it does go the way we are seeing, and Suluhu is out running, I think the only solution for Museveni would be to postpone elections, because it will come here. From Tanzania, it will just come here.
Yes, because I was just checking after that Cameroon joke. Museveni is also older than the atomic bomb. He was born in 1944, and the successful test of the first atomic bomb was July 16th, 1945. So we are not far from Paul Biya.
Yes, Charles. I think, if you could just wind up and we move to Dr. Ojiambo.
It is not by accident that the Gen Zs are rising up. Their hardships have not been diagnosed very well. So the prescription is not the right one. And this is on all of us. On all of us. That is why I keep getting worried when you see the impunity exercised by some of our leaders.
So way forward?
Not the way forward. Tanzania can result into the collapse of
That is what he's saying.
Of our government. Unless maybe the president does something miraculous. At times he has his God. The other time COVID came from nowhere and it helped him. So today I was seeing video clips of Bobi Wine moving. And you would see young people ask for permission from Bobi Wine to confront police and security forces. And you would hear these young people say, we don't have anything else to lose. We can confront these guys. In the previous, I think a year or two, you would see young people confront SFC officers. Unheard of in the past. But today things are changing. And these young people are many. Those who are bad off are so many that you might even be surprised the people running around supporting yellow. If anything changed, would be the first ones to grab you. I'm telling you. So we must be very, very careful. The way Museveni is campaigning, it is now an indictment on him to change his entire campaign agenda.
An agenda.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Charles. Dr. Ojiambo, we have about 10 minutes to go.
Judith, Tanzania is a unique country, and I have had the opportunity to live there long enough. I think CCM started getting problems in 2005. In 2005 is when Samia Suluhu came with Magufuli. At that time, the strong parties were Chama cha Demokrasia na Maendeleo, Chadema, for the mainland, and CCM. Then in Zanzibar, there was CAF, and CAF has been struggling for breakaway of Zanzibar. And they managed to really bundle up CAF, got its leaders, imprisoned them. A few who remained, like Professor Lipumba, had to cross into Chadema. Into CCM. And later they fronted Hassan Mwinyi, the son of Mwinyi, who later won an election that side. He's the president of Zanzibar and the vice president of CCM number 3. Because in Tanzania they have 2 vice presidents. There's a vice president on the mainland and the vice president in Zanzibar, who is also the president of Zanzibar. So when Magufuli went for an election, he won narrowly because he was contesting against a person who had been in CCM, only crossed to Chadema because he had been defeated by Magufuli in CCM. That is Lowassa. So he won by 53%, just 50 plus 3. And therefore, in that parliament, he had a lot of problems. There were so many Chadema members of parliament, and they almost took over parliament. The Tundu Lissus were one of them. There was Mulema. There was so many. In fact, when they would go in parliament, you would think that it is an opposition government. But they had a very sober speaker who managed things properly, and that is the year that Tundu Lissu was shot and he left. So when Tundu Lissu left, in the next election, which Magufuli won after the second running, he was so hard to an extent that Chadema only managed to win 2 positions in the whole country, because many of them were either on the run, or they were not allowed, or they were pushed out, they were disqualified, and they managed only to win 2 positions. They are lucky that in Tanzania they allow nomination, so they nominated 5, so they became 7, and a few, one from CAF and a few others. So by the time Samia Suluhu took up parliament, the parliament was almost CCM full time. But Chadema was making a lot of noise from the background. Now something happened in the Chadema itself. When Magufuli died, Chadema broke up into 2. There is what they called Chadema, not Chadema, CCM. CCM broke up into 2. The first thing that happened ever since Nyerere left, CCM had never separated. So there was CCM Mutandao, which is Mutandao, for people who don't know Swahili, is online, CCM of online. Then there was CCM proper. Now, CCM proper were people who were supporting Magufuli policies, because Magufuli left with a number of policies. He had broken the relationship with IMF and World Bank. He had broken the relationship with China, and he wanted the country to use locally generated funds. And he had demonstrated, and people said that is the thing. But the other thing, there was also an ethnic undertone. Magufuli had appointed so many people from the Sukuma land. The speaker, of course, is not the one, but they were his people. That is speaker you talked about, who was forced to leave, and a number of MPs. So those ones were hatched, and the speaker had to resign. Later he died, unfortunately. Last year he died. So CCM has been fighting almost itself. And the former presidents, like Kikwete, of course, he's now the only former president. The others have finally died, so he's the only former president. Has been accused that he's in CCM Mutandao, where he's hatching a plan to see how his son Rizwani can come and take over after Suluhu. So there is that struggle. But because of that, it looks like Chadema this time had organized very well, because they discovered that Mbowe would not lead them where they were going. So during the election, as Sarah said, they removed Mbowe and replaced him with the Tundu Lissu. Tundu Lissu is a militant person. Mbowe is this businessman who speaks very nicely and is a Swahili language calm person. So Tundu Lissu, who came, I think this lady sensed danger and started fighting Chadema tooth and nail. For first, Chadema was banned from holding any rally. So through that negotiation, they allowed them to have rallies. Now, to cut the long story, they helped in forming Lauze parties. It doesn't happen only in Uganda here. Even in Tanzania, there is some small party which is now the leading opposition party called Chauma. Now the people have rejected Chauma to an extent that even some people who had left Chadema and joined Chauma later withdrew. So Chauma became very weak. Then CAF in Zanzibar was also trying to come up, but very weak. So the people look like they have given up. And that's why I'm not shocked that now they are resorting to the street politics, because they think in the electoral politics they cannot have a chance. Imagine we are going to have a parliament without Chadema. Not a member of Chadema is going to be there. So this is Chauma in Tanzania. They are saying, they are calling them Njana Uma, that they are suffering from hunger. They want something to eat. So I think, in my view, it is a terrible thing for Tanzania. Tanzania, I lived there, had everything like Uganda, but had a stronger state, had built a stronger state than the state of Uganda. Because the state of Uganda, I normally see it, without Museveni, there is no state. There was some strong state, the police,
or a semblance of it.
A strong state. Now I am worried if that state is broken, it will cause a lot of problems, because Tanzania has tried to hold in the Great Lakes region. Is the only country that has not had a big problem. Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, what have had issues. It was only Tanzania that was remaining. So if things let loose in Tanzania, it's going to be dangerous for the Great Lakes region. And what I know is that Tanzania had a formula that you can never believe, and it has always worked. That the presidents have been alternating from the mainland to the coast and so on and so on, and as if it was planned, and it was to be a Catholic replacing a Muslim, a Catholic replacing a Muslim from Nyerere, and it has been something that many people have been watching. I hope that now is going to break, because this one is from Zanzibar, a Muslim. The person who was coming in, called Mupango, has already is not vying election. He has left. So I don't see a strong caricature of what has been happening, and I will not be surprised, as he says, as they say, when there is a revolution in Tanzania.
Thank you very much. And it's actually time, but I'll give every one of you just a minute or 30 seconds to just conclude, and then we call it a day. Starting with Honorable, or Dr. Jamba, you can just conclude in about 30, 45 seconds.
Yeah, I think our major problem here, which you have noted, is the Electoral Commission, and a state which is, a state should be neutral. For any country to remain stable, the state should be neutral from the, when I used to teach students, there is a difference between the state and the government. We should have a government which people can play around with through elections and what have you, but the state should remain intact. And we thought that the thing that Yoweri Museveni would hand over to us was a strong state, but it looks like it has also eluded him, and that's where the Electoral Commission is, and all these other state apparatus that are causing us trouble. So I think we need to think and come to what is thinking. How can we create a strong
system, a strong
state
state,
in
yeah.
Uganda
Thank
so
you.
that we can run government and politics?
Thank you, Charles. Your conclusion.
I encourage the young people to discuss their future as much as possible and publicly. Mindful that we have a country, and it is the only country that is our home, because we may not have another home. The state should restrain itself from gagging this discussion, because that is the last freedom that these young people have. They have been impoverished by a group of very small individuals who think they are very big. So they let the people talk, but also talk constructively so that we come up with a clear agenda on the way forward, not to destroy our country. And me, I'm of the view that we should not really see President Museveni as a stumbling block. I'm of the view, and I hold an opinion. I share Mugisha Monto's line that time is really the answer. And I was discussing with Honorable Banyenzaki, and he said for him he has initiated something else called nature. You can't
Fight nature.
You can't fight nature. So for President Museveni, me is not an issue at all. But the issue is do we have clear minds on what we want?
Because how do we reimagine Uganda post Museveni?
Yes, we must have very clear minds, and our issues must be very clear. Diagnose the problem very well, prescribe the right medicine, and then take charge of our destiny.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah Bireete.
Authoritarian leaders have vulgarized elections and democracy as personal tools for legitimacy. We don't have meaningful elections. We don't have meaningful democracy. We just have a flip side from the yesterday's dictators to today's pseudo-democrats. The people must claim their democracy. People must claim their countries. Tanzanians, the way they were, it is usually, I don't know how to call it. The people are not so outgoing, they keep to themselves by their nature. But to see that the young people on the streets today, it should be a warning to authoritarian leaders that there is an extent to which people are going to say enough is enough.
Thank you. Honorable Banyenzaki.
I think to wind it up is that there is a wind of change blowing across Africa and across all nations world over. And this is specifically in Africa and Uganda here, and even Kenya, Tanzania, East Africa region specifically, is that now that there is a social revolution influenced by information. So you can call it an information knowledge revolution, and driven by the young people. And that's what we are seeing now. And then there must be inclusive discussion and dialogue of this generation of the young people that are very informed, so that we come up with the Uganda we want, or the Africa we want. The exclusion of this generation, this young generation, is not going to make any step ahead, except that we are going to have many kind of this type government being overthrown by the young people. And it happened, it has already happened. It happened in Tunisia, it happened in Egypt, it happened in Burkina Faso, it has happened in Madagascar. The reasons are there. So we are not galvanized from that. So the earlier we do it, and then when we keep on try to camouflage this into some other project, it's not going to help us as a country. So as a country, we need to embrace this kind of the new norm, as we say, and there should be an honest discussion and politics, which is all inclusivity of all shades, especially the younger generation, to determine their destiny. And even if we took even the current government, this is how it happened. NRM came to power because of that young generation that came up together, the generation of the Musevenis and his peers that went into the bush and fought the revolution, that brought in the revolution that toppled that government then. So it can replicate itself, but the replication of this now is being informed by the technology now, the computer, the social media, and the momentum of this generation, what you can call I think
Thank you.
that's where we are now.
Thank you very much, Honorable Henry.
The youth.
Thank you, Honorable Henry Banyenzaki, Dr. Sarah Bireete, Mr. Charles Kazoban, you, Dr. Robert Ojiambo, for your insights on the state of electoral democracy in the East African community, of course, looking at the elections in Uganda and Tanzania as our case studies. My name is Judith Atim. Thank you for watching. The chat show returns next week. We hope you will join us then. From all of us here in the studio and the production team and myself, we're saying have yourselves a pleasant day and join us next time. Bye-bye.